Dopamine here. So everybody talks about how the Steam machine costs too much or that it's underpowered, and honestly, that's super valid. But I've had one for over a week now, and I've already put so many hours into Black Flag Racing, 007, Crimson Desert, and a few others. Many of you asked some great questions like, does it fit in a backpack? What is the vibe like? How does it differ from a DIY build? And many, many more. So let's get you familiar with the actual reality of owning a Steam machine. Wanting to see your take on how it feels to use and game on versus the initial hype, which was quite negative. So here's what I've noticed, right? As all of you guys know, this is an official way that you can have access to your PC game library while sitting at the couch with a TV and a controller. What I notice is that you can truly get lazy unlike you ever could with a gaming PC. And you could argue with like a Steam Deck or a handheld, you could do the same thing, get super cozied up and lazy. But what I noticed is with the Steam machine, I went from 1 to 2 hours of gaming to literally like binging 6 hours of freaking Assassin's Creed. As far as the vibe goes for the Steam machine, it's kind of interesting. Like, it is snappy, you know, and like fluid like a console should be and is with like PlayStation and Xbox. And so you treat it that way for sure, but you will be reminded that it is a PC turned into a console every once in a while. Like your fluid momentum will be stopped. Putting the Steam machine to sleep, you would think that it would pause everything flawlessly, but to be honest, like Assassin's Creed, Crimson Desert, and a couple other games, will somehow just reset. Those are software glitches which will be fixed over time. But there are those moments where you're like, okay, you know what? I am on a Steam freaking PC, not a Xbox or a PlayStation, if that makes sense. Can it fit in a backpack? Let's find out. Yes, I mean, it fits, that's for sure. I definitely wouldn't be doing parkour, you know, wearing the backpack with the Steam machine in it, but you can definitely take it places if you're gonna hang out with the homies and play some games, heck yeah. Is there any cool special features such as the LED strip that was not directly covered by Valve? This is an awesome question. And when I first set the Steam machine up, I went straight to the settings to see what was new. And we obviously have these LED settings right here, which by the way, the light gets super bright on the Steam machine. You actually have to dim it down at night. It is gnarly bright. And there's some cool customization things you can do with the light, but to be honest with you, man, the reality is that there is nothing else that stood out to me. There was nothing exclusive to the Steam machine. And that's both a good thing and a bad thing. And I'll explain to you in another question why that's a great thing. Also, you don't have to sub if you don't want to sub. If it's your vibe, you know, it's your vibe. How well does it run AAA games? I'll start by saying that it runs them, but it's up to you and your standards to determine how well they run. Here's a look at Assassin's Creed Black Flag. I don't dare go to 4K. I'm only messing with 1440p. If I hit 4K, man, I am hitting that red line. And we're playing this at high settings, but the catch is frame gen is turned on. If I turn off frame gen, we're ripping 30 frames per second or like 40 maybe. And so you have to have that frame gen turned on. Like I said, it boils down to you, right? I'm personally very, very sensitive to latency with frame gen. However, I am still having a good time playing Assassin's Creed with this exact setup. But I know for a lot of you gamers, you're not going to be cool with what you're seeing here. Here's a look at Crimson Desert. We're at the same thing. We're at like medium to high settings and frame gen turned off. You're looking at 40 to 45 frames per second and at 1440p. And to give you an idea, both these two games by today's standards are very well optimized. They're brand new and they're optimized, and we're dealing with this kind of performance. It's also worth noting, I could be playing these games at lower graphical settings, but the problem is that because you're playing on a big TV, you can totally tell if you're playing on lower graphics. And so sometimes I kind of feel like an Oreo, like a thin filling Oreo, where you're I don't know, you get the point maybe. You could always squeeze out more performance than what I just showed you, but that has to do with how okay you are with dropping settings to low and, justifying the latency with frame gen. So with that being said, I would never look at buying a Steam machine if you're playing AAA titles and only that. You have to be a connoisseur with games, right? So for example, kind of like how people will participate in the Sundance Film Festival to go see more indie niche films, you gotta have to kind of be that kind of person when it comes to the gaming industry by playing like lesser known games, or you're experimenting with newer games like indie games. If that's a big part of what you like when it comes to playing games, this is super valid to own, because you have access to everything that Steam has to offer, right? But yeah, that's just kind of how I see it. That's just the reality. Before we talk about DIY builds, convenience, and Steam machine pricing, I want to give a shout out to Arzopa. I've been keeping this portable monitor from Arzopa in my backpack. It's always with me. And honestly, the biggest thing isn't even the specs, it's just how easy this thing is to take with me. It's ridiculously thin, weighs less than 2 pounds, and comes with a really nice protective sleeve, so I can just slide it into my backpack without worrying about it getting scratched up. Whether I'm heading to a coffee shop, traveling, or just moving from my desk to the couch, it's one of those things that doesn't feel like a hassle to bring along. One of my favorite ways to use it is at night with my handhelds. I'll actually prop it up next to my bed, connect my Steam Deck or Claw with a single USB-C cable, grab a controller, and then it feels like I'm gaming on a full-size setup instead of like a little handheld screen. I've also been using it whenever I'm editing away from home. At a coffee shop, having a second monitor is a game changer, and I'll keep my timeline on the screen, and then I'll like preview files and like watch the stuff. It's honestly hard to go back once you've gotten used to it. And it's not like you're sacrificing display quality either. It's a 1440p panel with super smooth 180 refresh rate. Motion feels buttery smooth, and the colors are great whether you're gaming or doing creative work. There's basically one USB-C cable and you're good to go. There's no drivers, there's no complicated setup. It's just plug in and start using. If you've been wanting a bigger screen for your handheld, or you just want a second monitor that's actually easy to travel with, definitely check out the Arzopa Z3FC. I'll have a link down below if you want to learn more. Thank you, Arzopa. What's it really feel like on a modern 4K TV? Not specs, but vibe. So this is a 4K TV. And like I said, I'm only ripping games at 1440p. And to be honest with you, I'm not really complaining. Obviously, it'd be cool to go to 4K, but 1440p looks good enough. There's nothing bothering me about it. But the reality is that even at 1440p, you still have to justify graphics settings for these newer games. Compared to a current gen console, does it feel better? Dude, the Steam machine doesn't like come into the picture and blow everything out the water and stand in first place at all. If you have a gaming PC, your Steam machine is not going to replace it unless you want to relax and play some cozy games, right? You're still going to use your PC like crazy. If you have an Xbox or a PlayStation, again, when it comes to these brand new releases, you're probably going to play on those more than you are the Steam machine. You're going to play on the Steam machine only for the games that aren't available on console, or games that don't need enough hardware to run on the PC. Does that make sense? It like fits in the middle. It doesn't like overpower anything. So I would not say it's better, it's just different. How does a Steam machine compare to your DIY console PC? So as some of you know, I've made videos about this. I've built my very own Steam machine with SteamOS on it with an AMD graphics card and just normal PC specs. Here's what is so wild. You would think that by buying a Steam machine through Valve, you would get like a more fluid experience, a more official experience. It would feel less experimental, more like set in stone. But the reality is that there is no difference between my DIY build and the Steam machine. There's nothing telling me that the Steam machine is doing this better than my DIY build, except for my Steam machine that I personally built has more performance for a lesser price. So if you're a PC gamer looking to buy a Steam machine, which most of us are natively PC gamers, and you have the knowledge on how to build your own PC, the only reason I would ever buy a Steam machine is for convenience. If I didn't have enough time to build my DIY and I had enough money to justify the convenience. But to be honest with you, DIY build tenfold, 100%. Not being tech savvy or knowing how to build a PC from the ground up. Is this worth it as an entry PC to the PC ecosystem? That's a cool question. Looking at the market today, yeah, this is your best bet for sure, because it's PC library with no setup process required whatsoever. But here's kind of what I've noticed. But now that SteamOS is public, anybody can download it and flash it on an SSD. You're going to see pre-made builds that are meant to compete with the Steam machine for either a better price or for more performance. I would wait till you see what options you have out there before you consider pulling the trigger on the Steam machine. Unless you just don't want to wait, you don't care. Yeah, I think this is a great way to get into the PC ecosystem. Is it worth getting it if I don't have a gaming PC? Or should I just save the money and get a nice handheld? This is so cool. And to be honest with you, after all my time playing on the Steam machine, I would actually spend the money on a handheld. I totally would. Steam machine is like a luxury to have. It's not necessary, but it's fun to have. Because yeah, with the handheld, you can take it anywhere you go. You can play the same games that you're gonna play on the Steam machine. Because keep in mind, you're playing at a lower resolution, but it's not that big of a deal because it's a smaller screen and you're closer to it. I would totally not get a Steam machine. I'd get a freaking handheld, like the Claw with its new performance, dude, tenfold. Can you genuinely recommend it at the current price point, or should we just wait to see if it eventually gets cheaper? Here's the harsh reality. And I've done a lot of extensive research and talked to a lot of industry people about, the hardware crisis that we're facing today. It's not going to get cheaper. I don't think it's going to get cheaper. That's a harsh reality, but I think it's true, not for many, many years. So yeah, maybe you could buy one used on Facebook Marketplace, but even then, these guys know what they have, and they'll know what they have for a long time. They're going to sell it for what they bought it for, if not more. I would not be waiting. I mean, this is just the harsh reality. Prices have gone up. There's nothing we can do about it, and that's just what we're going to have to settle with from here on out. Given how expensive the Steam machine turned out to be, who do you think this is for? So I've spent a lot of time trying to figure out who would buy this. Clearly anyone would. I mean, a lot of people would. It's always sold out. It's always going to be for a while. But I like to think of my cousin. My cousin is a developer, an app developer. He knows his computer stuff. He's a PC gamer at heart, but he loves the convenience of consoles. He doesn't have time to build his own DIY gaming PC. And he wants to play games on his Steam library. He has a great job. He makes good money. He doesn't have to worry about paying such a high price for something so convenient, right? It's people that are well-to-do, have a good job, don't have enough time to justify building their own thing. That's kind of who the target audience is for right now. That's just kind of how I see it in my head. Or you're just simply a connoisseur. You love this stuff just as much as I do. And it's what you want to be around all the time. You just got to get it because you love it. Let me get real with you. Dude, as you know, this channel, I have to have these newer devices and Steam machines, but at the price that I paid for it, which was around $1,200 with tax and everything, part of me still wonders if I should return it, if I'm being real with you. That price is so freaking heavy, and it's so hard for me to justify something sitting in my living room like that for that price. That's just kind of how I see it. It is a gnarly thing. So you got to be in a good position, a better position than I'm in, right? Also, you don't have to sub if you don't want to sub. If it's your vibe, it's your vibe. All right, y'all. Thanks for taking the time to freaking check this video out. You know what I mean? Let's do it.